Welcome back, everybody. This is Brian Kirk with Eat to My Own Beat, taking the road less traveled, with part two of the Vatican series. This one again will be the second part of at least three. I'm basically just letting the travel agent person that was giving us the tour guide run of the show here. They'll be talking us through what's going on in the next video and guide us through the Vatican up till next week. So check back often. There'll be another video next week, and I apologize for the delay. And until next time, keep eating to your own beat. Take the road less traveled, and have a great day.
And golden stars. But few years later, a big fire destroyed the ceiling. And so, Michelangelo arrived. The Pope Julius II called Michelangelo to paint the so beautiful creation story in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo was 40 years old. He spent 4 years doing the ceiling, and he worked it completely alone. Because he had a terrible character, he didn't like the other people, he sent away all the helpers that the Pope offered him. So he completed it completely alone, believed that he built by himself also the scaffoldings to reach the so tall ceiling. And he used to work in this position, not very comfortable. Also the restorer in these days employed the same position, you see. So what is the meaning of this ceiling? The creation story. God dividing light from darkness, creation of sun, moon, vegetation, division of water from land, and the creation of Adam. God is giving the life to Adam by touching fingers. The creation of Eve, the first woman, she is coming out from the side of Adam's limb. It is God again. So these are the 7 days, 7 days of the creation. Then there is the original sin. The snake around the tree giving the apple to Adam and Eve, symbol of the original sin. They are represented before and after the sin. After they look like older, uglier, because of the shame of their sin. And then 3 more moments from the Old Testament. Sacrifice of Isaac, great flood, the universal delusion, the Ark of Noah with the animals, and last one, the drunkenness of Noah. Drunkenness has a particular meaning. Humans always wrong, always make sins, and God always forgives them. It happens generation after generation. So to mean generation after generation, Michelangelo painted families in the triangles all around. In each one you can recognize a mother, a father, and a child. Generation after generation, this is the human history. Okay. After this work, there was a gap of 20 years, and then Michelangelo was called again. When he was 63 years old, he painted the Last Judgment in the wall of the altar, behind the altar inside the Sistine Chapel. In the middle, there is Jesus, judge of the world. He has to decide who is going up to heaven, who is going down to the hell. This side, the people waiting for his decision. And little up, the good people are carried up to paradise. You see, for example, these two are carried up through the rosary, to mean that praying can help you. Upper part is the paradise, so around the Jesus there is the Virgin Mary and other saints. This side, on the contrary, demons are pulling down the bad people and sending them to the hell. This corner is the hell, also called by someone the Dante Inferno, because Michelangelo painted the hell exactly as Dante had described it in the Divine Comedy. So there is terror, Boatman, and Minos, the judge of underworld. About this painting, there is a funny story. Michelangelo had painted all of them completely naked, nude, like you can see here, because he was inspired by the Roman statues. But the Pope didn't appreciate it. He didn't want all these naked people in a church. And in particular, the second of the Pope, the Cardinal Biagio da Cesena, criticized him. And Michelangelo decided to avenge himself. He represented the demon, this one, with a portrait of the Cardinal Biagio da Cesena. Because he was very, very crazy. But also very famous, so he could do it. So this is a famous portrait, the second of the Pope, Cardinal Biagio da Cesena. There is also the self-portrait of Michelangelo, obviously up in paradise. You can imagine. Here, look, this is a San Bartolomeo, a saint, an apostle that, according with the legend, was skinned alive. So he's carrying his own skin. But let's compare face of the saint with the face of the skin, completely different. Because the face of the skin is the self-portrait by Michelangelo. It was like a signature. They couldn't sign their work in that time, but he represented himself. And so Michelangelo painted the very beginning and the very end of human history in the Sistine Chapel. I don't know if you have any questions. No? Maybe when you see the original, you can have any questions, and then you can ask me when we exit the chapel. And so we continue through the Roman art collection. Only in 1 hour. That he was an athlete washing himself after an athletic game. Before the game, they used to put oil in their skin, and then to dry the oil, sand, and they scrub away both, like doing a modern peeling. And this is considered the model of the classical art, because the perfection of balance between arms and legs and the perfection of the body. Here, looking around, you can see a lot. Columns that support the porticus itself, they are Roman columns, carried here from Colosseum, from Roman Forum, and reused, recycled. Okay. So, the porticus was built 500 years ago, but the object dates back to 2000 years ago. You can see, for example, the goddess Venus. There's all or this side, you can go closer obviously, this side, the river god Arno. They used to represent rivers like a god, like this one, a god laying down along the river bed, with the hair wet, usually with a jar, with a vase, with water coming out, because these are kind of statues were fountains. Now, if you look inside that jar, you can see the face of a lion. In that time, the lion was a symbol of the city Florence. So this is the Arno River, the river of Florence. You could, going around the city, probably you're going to see often statues similar to this one, but always with a different symbol. For example, you can find it with a she-wolf feeding the babies Romulus and Remus. It means Tiber River, the river of Rome. Or you could find a crocodile. It is Nilus River, the river of Egypt. And so going on. Always a symbol to recognize the river. Under the statue, there is a decorated box. It is a sarcophagus. Rich people of the middle class and aristocratic class used this kind of coffins.
Is there anyone in there?
When they found it, yes. Some of them were discovered full of bones, some others empty. Also because in the Middle Age, they very often re-employed the coffins like basins for fountains. For example, nearby the square of St. Peter Basilica, still now there is a fountain with water going inside a coffin, a very old coffin. Obviously, they were good materials, expensive materials. So when the Roman Empire collapsed, in the Middle Age and in the Renaissance time, they reused them. You see also bath like this. They were backed off from a Roman thermal bath. Only sometimes they were coffins. I mean, the very rich people, in order to represent their power and their richness, sometimes did their coffins in this shape because it was more elegant, more expensive. But usually they were bathed off from thermal bath. I'll wait for you, so if you want to go closer, no worries. object of the whole collection. It was also the first one. When the Pope Julius II had seen it, he said, okay, I will start the collection. This is La Ponte, the story of Trojan War. You know the story of the Trojan War? It was a long war of Greeks against the Trojans. It was lasting from 10 years. So one of the Greeks, Ulysses, invented the wooden horse. He said that the wooden horse the Greek soldiers side themselves, but Trojans didn't know. They carried the wooden horse inside, Greeks come out and destroyed the city. Well, this man, Lacon, was the high priest of the city of Troy, and he had understood the wooden horse was dangerous. He said to his citizens, but they didn't believe him, they didn't listen. Because when he was talking about the wooden horse, two terrible snakes arrived from the sea and killed him and his children. The problem is that the snakes were the symbol of the god Apollo. And he was the god, he was the priest of the god Apollo. So they believed the god was against Lacon. And they decided to not believe him, to carry the wooden horse inside. And we know the story. They lost everything. But look at the perfection of the body, the dragon's face, the mask with the veil represented. It was sculpted 1,800 years ago and made from one single piece of marble. So something really interesting. According to the documents of that time, we know that 3 Greek artists made it. Alessandro, Atenodoro, and Polydoro. It was discovered nearby the Colosseum. Probably it was a decoration from thermal baths that were nearby the Colosseum. Or maybe for the Colosseum itself, the arches of the Colosseum, there were statues.
Een stuk marmer.
Are we ready to continue? Yeah?
Yeah.
You fine? Okay. From this moment we go in shapes and forms. And then I'll also exotic lines, Usually, the common animals such as bulls, pigs, and sheep decorated temples because these kinds of animals were killed and sacrificed for the gods. So to remind the sacrifices of the temple. On the contrary, the exotic animals represented the power of the empire because more strenuous animals need more territories, so a bigger and powerful empire. So you can imagine that in the Colosseum, where in the arches of the Colosseum, where and you see that they are also made of a different kind of because in Italy there was no marble, only a very, very small quarry of a white marble. So usually marble was carried from Greece, from Egypt, and from other places. Don't forget the floor, you are working on a true ancient Roman mosaic. So small cubes of marble, different colors, joined together to create a mosaic. One of the words, the 12 words. You see the head of the lion, not very well preserved, but you see the head on the leg, notice the leg of the lion, anatomic. You see also in the picture, the basement, a Greek legs, the muscle. Years old signature of an artist. Obviously the true Pantheon is bigger, more expensive because it's not painted around, but it is decorated with marbles. So if you have time, I suggest to visit the Vatican. Here you can have an idea. There is a special object in this room. The backdrop you see in the middle. It was the backdrop for a queen. Not exactly a queen. She was the lover of the crazy Roman Emperor Nero. She was a little bit crazy too. And she had her bathing with a donkey milk. Not water, but a donkey milk. In order to have a smoother and softer skin. You can imagine a lot of donkey milk with this bath. It was discovered in the domicile that was the house, the imperial house. And also the flora is really beautiful. It was carried here from Roman Thermodynamics. So imagine it was cut slices like a pizza. Bye-bye. And carried here. So we say that the color marbles were the symbol of the power, were a symbol of the power of the time. The most expensive marble was the red porphyry. One of that back. Also the one called, this is the red porphyry, red porphyry. It was the most expensive, also in antiquity. So only the imperial family could afford. When you see this marble, you can visualize an imperial object. Here your last, the coffin for Saint Helen, mother of Constantine, the Roman Emperor Constantine, the first Christian Roman Emperor. Opposite side, the one of the both sides, Constantine. There was a mausoleum, a monument similar to this one, with a coffin either mosaics, paintings, marbles, and still now, the two mausoleums exist. They are here in Rome, and now they are two Catholic churches. And the coffins were carried here, that's it. When the Roman Emperor Augustus conquered Egypt against Antonio and Cleopatra, they started to really love the Egyptian art, so they carried a lot of Egyptian objects in the city. And then there is a tablet. Here is a man, recorded number 28, that is Julius Caesar. Remember, they are realistic portraits.
Son los iconos